a lot of super famous men are trying to get us drunk. We got The Rock with an alcohol brand. We got the Ryan Reynolds. We got the Ryan Reynolds with an alcohol brand. Kevin Hart has an alcohol brand. I was like looking this up the other day, and there's just like George Clooney's got an alcohol brand. Even people who are like only kind of famous have an alcohol brand. Like there's these two comedians, Mark Normand and Sam Morrill. They're kind of famous, like, but they're not super famous. They're famous in comedy. They've got an alcohol brand. The idea behind this podcast is I gathered a group of people that I would start a company with if I could pick anybody. Zoe Kahn, founder, CEO of the Inevitable Agency, early instrumental team member in Ghost and at Chomps. Bart Szaniewski, co-founder of Dad Gang, veteran in the e-commerce space. And of course, the man himself, Nick Shackelford, CEO of now 783 companies, most notably probably Brez, right? Like that's probably most notable these days. Shaq, I want to kick this one to you because you have not an alcohol brand, but a brand in the, I don't know, mind altering space, alcohol alternative. What gives? Why is this a space all the famous people go into?
So I'll do a first inclination is like I'm not a co-founder. Aaron is the founder, and I'm one of the earliest partners.
Oh, sorry.
Just to make sure that he feels good about his placement in that. Um, always clear to explain this stuff. It's funny that you mentioned a bunch of those guys because I feel like as though they couldn't have launched this if their career just started. Like all those guys are pretty old, and so their demographic is continuing to get old as well. And like, how do I monetize this the best? Outside of Rock launching a hair care product and him not having any hair, that makes total sense for those guys to kind of launch that type of product because their demo is older. The older women that like them too are obviously older, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just the easiest thing to get the biggest multiple possible. Clooney got a massive multiple. McGregor got a massive multiple. Anybody that launches any of these type of products, the money is just chasing that at this level for these guys. What else is next, right? They're already arguably some of the largest stars. Now I don't know too much about the comedians. That makes sense because they're wanting the product to be out there during an experience, during an
Right.
event. And I
Yeah.
think this is something that I have been starting to find out. Like we finished last year at 28 million. It was our first full year of running. And I don't think it slows down. I think a lot of these people are just needing something else to do. And after kind of COVID, like they're like, damn, I drink a lot of alcohol and I don't like the way this makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
So alcohol is never going away, but in this mind altering social compound thing, like it's just going to get even more and more intense. Wait until you get psilocybin in a drink. This is going to go crazy.
That's what I was thinking.
How couldn't it?
It has to.
Everybody talks about optimizing their ads, but they don't spend enough time talking about optimizing their overall website, which is something that I think more of us need to spend time doing and more of us need to spend time thinking through. The reason why most people don't do it is because you actually can't track revenue per element on your site. Heatmap.com does that. And that's something exactly why I love them and why we use it, because it's easy enough for me to use and it's easy enough for us to like communicate what exactly the changes are doing for our people. I like heatmap.com because it specifically drives revenue for us per element that we have. And so there's no real back and forth discussion. It's either going to start to work or we're going to get rid of it because it's tied directly to revenue. Google Analytics, which we all terribly hate, only talks about what's happening on the overall website, not the actual elements within the website. At the end of the day, the only valuable data point that we can gather are the ones that drive revenue. And if you aren't able to track that or update that, you're really wasting your time, which is why we use Heatmap, because we're able to track that specific data and know what optimizations we need to do next. Head on over to heatmap.com, give it a 14-day free trial. Worst case, it's not for you. You don't want to use it. Best case, you find a bunch of money and you make a bunch of money.
Yeah. So specifically, you think it's like, because I mean, I guess I'm wondering, like, there's just like a lot of spaces they could go into, right? Like, there's I don't know, that girl from Pretty Little Liars started Base Travel. This is a big luggage brand, great brand. Like, there are celebrities who start other brands, but it just seems outsized in this category of alcohol. I think that's like I get why celebrities start brands, but in this specific category, like, you think it's because it is, I don't know, quote unquote addictive or quote like a vice. You think vice categories are the play here for like maximum value extraction from an audience?
I think it's like an LTV play too. Is like
Yeah.
you see like Mr. Beast goes chocolate and like Lunchly, you go Logan Paul goes Prime. That's not like that's just another drink in the fridge. But if you find your thing, your alcohol, your beverage, you usually stick to like there's guys, and I've been sober since junior in high school. At the time, I was like, I'm a whiskey guy. That's who I am, and I'm only going to drink whiskey. You're going to be a tequila guy. You're going to be a vodka guy. You're going to be or a girl. You're not going to like kind of rotate what you're drinking. So once you kind of find your thing, and if you already have an affinity towards these people, you're gonna pull that off the shelf over. That's like your go-to drink. So I think the LTV is there, and it makes sense to. I mean, even the call her daddy girl, like she's got her own little spritz, like that type of stuff makes a lot of sense. Joe Rogan, he didn't start his own, but he was with Kill Cliff, right? And you even on the energy drink side, you go. There's the energy drink called Go, which is from what's his name? He's like I'm blanking on. I actually literally had one today. But he's like an intense individual and he starts his own beverage. If they have the loyalty to the individual and the product is actually good enough, it's gonna work.
Yeah, Go energy drink. Oh, is it Jocko? Yeah, it's by Jocko, right?
Jocko, yeah. So Jocko has Go. Like if you are in love with Jocko, it's very aligned. Like Jocko's not coming out with alcohol, but he's coming out with some intense type of protein product, or he's coming out with some sort of beverage, and you're not going to get off of that. Like, could you imagine if Bang, like I mean, Zoe knows. Oh my God, this is a perfect example. At Ghost, right? They started building affinity towards the type of collaborations and the type of flavors that they were launching. But if it would have been like so and so super famous had their own specific line of drink in Ghost, or maybe you even guys had that type of conversation. Like, how did that come about?
We had that with Max Tuning because Max Tuning
The sour strips.
Yeah, sour strips, but we had collabs with him to make his own flavor pre-workout. Same thing with Christian Guzman. And then so we always did strawberry margarita, which is like because he really liked margaritas. And then we made an energy drink that was that flavor. But it's like easy. And not that I'm a celebrity or anything, but when I was gaming, my gaming name was Agave Zoe because at work I was Tequila Zoe because I was like that tequila girl and like dancing on tables and stuff. Oh God.
You mean like like this was like last week?
Yeah, like that was so long ago. No, but everyone called me Tequila Zoe, and then I started my Twitch, and I was like, what should I call myself? I don't want to be Tequila Zoe. That's like way too obvious, and I'll probably get banned. So I made myself Agave Zoe because agave makes tequila, and it was so easy to do branding around it. Like I made little emotes that was like shots, and then like I would start every stream of me taking a shot. Like very opposite of Nick's journey right now, being sober since junior in high school.
Yeah,
but wait, did you say junior in high school or junior in college?
Sober since I have a similar story. I've been sober since before I was 21. Before that, I was not sober.
Wait, you've never drank?
No, I drank. I just got all of it before I was 21.
Feel better about taking shots on Twitch like but it's so easy to do branding and it's like everyone like people can relate. Alcohol's like so interesting in that like I mean it's also addictive.
Okay, I want to kick something to Bart here because this is something that I'm noticing. Like, okay, outsized celebrity men, like there's an outsized number of them, I think, in specifically alcohol. And I do wonder if as we get deeper into cannabis, like you said, psilocybin, I can't say that word, and like maybe we'll see more celebrities attaching to that stuff as it becomes more mainstream. On the women's side, like celebrity women, it's almost always beauty. Like their alcohol is beauty. So many celebrity women. Well, that's what I was just going to say. It's undersized in apparel, I feel like. So like on like for celebrity women, there are a lot of celebrity women that have like beauty brands that you didn't even realize had a beauty brand. Just like there is celebrity men who have alcohol brands you didn't even realize had an alcohol brand. But what I like don't notice a lot of is like, why aren't we seeing more celebrities launch like clothing brands? There are certainly some. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Clothing or like jewelry or things like that. Like Bart, I don't know, you're kind of in the clothing category. Do you think there's something specific about this category that like makes people not enter it? Because none of these celebrities are running these brands. They have partners,
right?
Like, is there something that makes it less attractive to like a celebrity partnership than consumables?
Yeah, I'm not sure because you see, like Kevin Hart, you were talking about, has his own tequila now, but before that, he had like a massive partnership with Tommy John, and then now he's
Athletic.
yeah, Fabletics, and so you see a lot
They do the
of like
partnerships, but they don't launch their own. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but the partnerships are almost designed to look like, it's their thing. The brand kind of takes a risk on like Kevin Hart or whoever is our guy for a long time now, and he's the one talking about it.
Yeah.
But you don't see like Kim K level Skims launches for men, and I'm not really sure why. I think like the launch of your own alcohol is kind of like spiked since um, you know uh, no Diddy, but like Diddy and Ciroc had massive success, but it was like Ciroc came to him as a vodka distributor to promote that over and over again, and then it turned into I don't know, 50 Cent has his own, and then it turned into okay, instead of partnering with these alcohol companies, we're either going to make it look like Conor McGregor Proper 12 is mine and mine only, but
Mhm.
on the back end of that, you see a ton of like bigger companies being behind the actual partnership. So it's easier to make it look like, okay, you've followed me forever, whether it's The Rock or Kevin Hart or LeBron James with Lobos,
Yeah.
and like there's enough authority there to say, hey, I'm putting something out, and you're going to follow it because you've trusted me for so long.
This, yeah, you said something that shook a thought loose for me. I think that for clothing brands, it's really easy to partner with celebrities, creators, influencers because we can just launch a line with them, right? Like we
Yeah,
can you launched a Mookie Betts collab, with that.
yeah,
Like we can launch a collab with them, but with like Breeze or Ghost, you can do that, but like you can only launch so many there's only so much you can do with flavor before you're like this just doesn't taste good. So
yeah,
you can't you're limited in the number of like product collections that you can put somebody's name on. So it seems like it's like, yeah, maybe they don't because it's too easy for them to do a partnership with a Fabletics or with a Lulu or with something like that. Whereas if they want to monetize their audience through a physical product company, it's really easy to do that in clothing, but not a lot of alcohol brands are looking to partner with them on a collection or on a product.
yeah.
But
You know,
so they have to launch their own.
yeah. The one other guy that I can like say that has launched his own brand in the apparel space, and I don't know how it's doing, but like Mark Wahlberg launched Municipal,
Yeah.
and I
Hmm.
don't know, made a lot of noise initially. I don't know where like that demo falls. He's like doing
Isn't
shoes now and a lot of
Marshawn
apparel and
Lynch?
stuff, but
Isn't Marshawn Lynch in the apparel space?
well, he's got beast mode doing just about everything.
Yeah.
Um, and apparel falls into that. But yeah, he has his own retail stores with like beast mode apparel around that brand. But I know Mark Wahlberg's probably like the more recent example where they go all out brand and it's not called like Wahlberg clothing or anything. It's
Yeah.
an actual brand that's tied to him and doesn't carry his image directly, but he's trying it on his own.
Apparel is just hard. There's so many SKUs. But when what you were saying, John, about you can only launch so many flavors, and Nick, I'm interested to see what you think about this or if you've noticed this. Ghost, they'll launch the same flavors but change the packaging based on events. Have you guys seen that? Like for the Sunset Stadium, they have a orange cream that's like the Suns colors and everything, and they sell it at the Suns. But then they also have it around the Phoenix area and the gas stations and stuff, and so you can get like a Suns branded. It's the same flavor, just different can. And then like the music festivals. And when we were young festival, they did a can that was like just same flavor but different can that was like a super cool like basically like a collectible can. Like people were drinking this and bringing it home. It was like
Do they
that's. Mhm.
do they change the name of the flavor or just okay?
No. Well, sometimes they do. Actually, I think electric or I can't remember, but they will sometimes change the flavor or do a flavor just for that too. But a lot of times it's just the can, and it's like super dope because
That's
it's
a
like
good
collectible.
point. So you could do packaging collabs
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
Thoughts on this, Shaq?
Well, you can see like we did the commerce roundtable last year. There was a team that sponsored called Rebel Rabbit, and they like wrapped the can Because as long as you have a good enough lead time and the artwork is done, you can pretty much do anything. You can
Yeah.
get it out there, and you don't have to like change a formula. But I think the beverage space lends itself better to licensing deals with already established nostalgic type of flavors or brand profiles. You
Yeah.
see Ghost, you see Rice Supplements, all these places where they're like, okay, as long as I get approval on a certain flavor profile that they can kind of you can get that into production and kind of run with it. But on the apparel side, I guess it really does come down to like lead times. Like for Bart, if he's going to make a specific type of like, maybe it's a running hat, or maybe it's like a hat that fits perfectly underneath like a motorcycle helmet, like you might have to find and do a lot of product R&D and development to get that launched. And if you launch it the wrong person, you're kind of like, damn, I'm like tied to this and I can't even relaunch this product ever again. Whereas if there's Welch's or Jiffy or this established historic licensing deal, it's not even really about Rise or Ghost. It's literally about the legacy of that the license.
Well, before I worked for Ghost, I managed GNCs, and Ghost was just under 2 years old. I saw Ghost like get on the shelves at GNC, and the first collab they did was Warheads, which I hate Warheads. Like I like just think they're gross, and they're all also like a phased out candy, but it's very nostalgic. And so people would come into GNC and like not know anything about Ghost and be like, "Oh, Warheads flavor, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
even like Warheads, but I want to try it." It was like really cool to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I saw a thing. This is a complete side note. I saw a thing the other day that if you're feeling anxious, have a warhead, and it'll just change how you're feeling.
Zoe perked up when you said that. Is that real?
It just throws your brain off so much that you can't even
Right.
be anxious anymore.
If you're anxious, burn the roof of your mouth off real quick. It'll give you perspective.
You'll think about something else. That's hilarious.
Were you going to say something really quick? I have one more question on this. Were you going to say something real quick, Shaq?
no, I'm good on that.
Cool. So I think if you're making bets, or if you're like, I don't know, a lot of our people who listen to this, they're brand owners, founders, they're people, marketers who work at brands, things like that. It seems like, if you're not like, there's so many celebrities getting into alcohol, and I wouldn't say failing, but like the reason this came up is because I was actually just listening to a podcast with Mark Normand, who is like I said, fairly famous in the world of stand-up comedy. He's not like broken through to mainstream fame, but and he was saying like, oh, this is like really hard. Like I thought we were like pretty well known, and then I realized like, oh, The Rock and Kevin Hart and Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg, like everybody's got an alcohol brand. Like this is really, really, really hard. And he was, just basically to like get it out there and get people buying it and stuff like that. Would you say that it's like, okay, but if you don't have a celebrity at all, like how are there brands competing that don't have a celebrity at all? Is this a category that you still think people can go into, whether it's alcohol or the broader category of like vice categories? And I guess you could extend that to beauty, as well, because we just kind of said like beauty is the women's version of alcohol, right? So is it like, how are there brands that are competing without that? And also like, is it saturated? Is it done? Don't get in. Like this is a bad bet at this point. To you, Shaq.
I don't know, because it's so much R&D. Like the product actually has to be pretty good. I think what was working earlier was you can get pretty far with the distribution of influencers or the distribution of like owned audiences,
Yeah.
but you can't get that far, or you can't sustain the speed and the depth that you're going unless the product is actually quality. And so like
Yeah.
if it's a good quality product, like again, you can talk about Bobby Brown, like they've been around for a long time. They're continuing to develop. You can even talk about Skims. People love that product, whether it's Kim Kardashian or not. Kim definitely got it started, but the product is fucking incredible, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is a need to, if it has to be a good enough product to sustain and live on its own, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of oomph out the gates. I would say that
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's too difficult to get into. I think anything right now is too difficult to get into just because of it's 2025 and nothing's cheap anymore. But it really is the product is on the venture.
Well, I will say the biggest tailwind,
Differentiator.
the biggest tailwind I see, of all the data that I see, I downplayed it earlier, but like I see a lot of data across about 30,000 e-commerce brands, right? The biggest tailwind is in your category, Nick. It's in cannabis stuff, right? So cannabis beverages, that's the biggest market tailwind at this point. A lot of brands
For
that are
sure.
category are really growing fast and able to do so, like acquiring customers at like a pretty good price, whereas in a lot of other categories that's pretty hard to do. So yeah, it seems like it's there, but if you were starting from zero, like you might be too late to the start line at this point to get into that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to say.
We weren't the first, but we're the biggest.
Right. Yeah, well, you're
So
in a race. I was saying this on an to somebody else, and it was like you're in a race. There's two there can be two category leaders in any category, and I think Breeze is in a race to be one of the two category leaders, right? With a couple other
I hope
brands.
so. I
Um,
hope so.
you know, there's only two Hershey's and Mars. There's only two Pepsi and Coke, right? And you actually have like a real shot of being that with Breeze. So it's pretty cool. It's exciting. But I do think you're pretty late to the starting line if you're starting now, especially without a celebrity. But to your point, I think it's like, you know, I don't know who said that. Oh, it was Mr. Beast who said this. Like a lot of creators will launch physical product brands. And there's a difference between, like you said, like, I'm going to try and use people of a similar size. Okay. So I'm going to use Emma Chamberlain with Chamberlain Coffee and David Dobrik with Crunch Labs. Okay.
Okay.
Crunch Labs, incredible product and brand all on its own. If David Dobrik wasn't associated, you could just run Facebook ads for this product and probably grow a brand doing it. Chamberlain Coffee, I'm not saying it's bad. Like I don't drink coffee, so I have no idea. But I think it's just another D2C coffee brand that they like spun up another version of their same thing with and put her packaging on. And so it's really, really heavily dependent on how active she is and how much she's making videos and how much she's pushing it. You know, I think right, like because there was a lot of hype around it for a while, and then as she's tried to pull back and take a break and not be as in the limelight, it seems like the hype around the brand is dying down too. Whereas, you know, certain brands like Skims and stuff, that doesn't seem to be the case.
I mean, my only comment back to it is like the quality of the product is sustaining the audience that they've been able to generate and start with. I think that it just literally goes right back into that. The quality of the product, the consistency of the new products, the routine around the products. I don't think you can just live on personality and influence the entire time, which is why I think you can see Prime and Lunchly, if you look at any of the recent numbers, they're
Yeah.
not growing like they thought they would, and they're not going to do what I envision them to continue to do. It's just not a good product.
They're retracting. And last point on this, but you know, the people behind Prime, besides Logan Paul, they also have Alana, the energy drink. And it's interesting because at one time Prime seemed like this super promising thing. I think they said they did $1 billion in revenue over like a year and a half long period or something like that. But I would actually say Alana is the far more promising product at this point. And I think it's because like people just keep coming back and drinking it. Whereas Prime was like, you know, some people who like it was like this, it was a moment in time, but beyond that moment, it doesn't seem to be able to compete in
Sure.
like the energy drink or sports drink market. Yeah. Agreed? Or does
Yeah.
anybody want to disagree with me on that?
I just
I don't
can't.
know.
I can't go on without correcting you. It's Alani.
Alani, sorry. Yep.
Ugh.
Okay, Bart, one of the big things I'm seeing a lot in Facebook ad accounts these days is a lot of spend on product catalogs. And I'm really, really seeing this a ton in apparel and clothing. I'm curious how much of your budget is going toward catalog?
Yeah, we have really good product photography. So a majority of our spend recently has been going to catalog ads. 40, 50, and sometimes 60% is going
Mhm.
into catalog ads, DPAs. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of great results from it.
Yeah, even just going catalogs to cold audiences. One of the issues, though, of course, with catalogs is that you can't stand out creatively. Like you can't, you know, it's just your product photos.
Yeah.
So like I think we've solved for that in an interesting way with Dad Gang, with our partner Marpipe. So can you just kind of break down what you're doing with Marpipe to try and get better results out of your catalog ads?
Marpipe was able to come in and kind of mix up our creative a lot. We kind of felt like we were cornered into this. You can only show white background images or whatever's on your Shopify site. And they were able to come in and bust out a bunch of variations of that catalog, adding copy or adding various backgrounds or even simple things like price. Before that, we were just kind of, held to white background. Here's the hat and here's the copy of the ad. Whereas now that creative can showcase a lot more about the brand to a cold or a remarketing audience.
Yeah. Cool. So if you're a Facebook advertiser, marketer, founder, anything like that, you're most likely running product catalog ads in your Facebook ad account already. Check out Marpipe if you want to basically just put those product catalog ads on steroids.
This is actually really funny. I should have Dan from Ghost send me the picture. It was like my first week at Ghost, and I went to the Arnold Expo, and I think that Alani Nu like had just launched energy drinks, and so I was like drinking. Like I went, and it was like just this little like fangirl like fitness whatever that was like my whole life. And I went to the booth and I grabbed one of the free Alani Nu drinks, and I was drinking it. And whatever, I went through the weekend, got back to work, and I get to the office, and Dan's like, "What's this about?" He had a screenshot of me in the background of someone else's story drinking Alani Nu. And I was like, oh my God, I'm terrified. I didn't know I was like not allowed to like consume other supplements. And we didn't even like energy wasn't even like, I'm sure it was a thought for him, but we didn't even know that they wanted energy drinks. So I was like, now, and actually it's funny because I also have an Alani Nu. Sorry.
There you go.
But yeah, Alani Nu like is still staying relevant.
Yeah. Well, and look, in beverage, the thing I always say to people is like, look, Red Bull, they could have paid literally any price to acquire my wife. No, doesn't matter what the price is. They could have paid it to acquire my wife. Monster could have paid literally any price to acquire me. The LTV on me is insane. So I do think there is something to consume. Like it has the highest ceiling on LTV, and that's probably why everybody's going into it. All right, let's shift. Zoe, to you, what looks interesting to you? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was trying to think. So we have this list that we put our thoughts on to talk about. And I can't remember this one. So it's just like funny that I have it on the list. It just says fraud.
Well, if you don't remember what it is.
Yeah, but I just think it's funny that I don't remember. I'm trying to think like, what was I must have been like mad about some type of fraud that day. And I
that's
just, like,
all
put it on the sheet.
That's all of yours. Yours are like fraud, phones, neurospicy.
Just one word, whitelisting.
Like, yeah.
No, whitelisting's another one.
I'm just trying to think like what fraud was I dealing with? But like I think that fraud, maybe I was thinking because fraud is like, we don't talk about it a lot, but I'm always dealing with it and like trying to make sure people don't get like taken advantage of in like the smallest ways of like people are like taking advantage of the loyalty program and you check and they have like 500 free orders or like they're legitimately like using someone else's credit card and then you're getting chargebacks. And I feel like it's kind of like a boring thing that people don't like talk about, but it's actually like quite fascinating. But I can't remember like exactly why I put fraud on there. So I just needed to like.
Well, we recently went through this with Zoe because Zoe's supporting us on our rebuild of our CX team, and we ship heavy cans everywhere. And I remember Brianna, she brought it up. She was like, "Yeah, we've sent this person like 6 cases or like 4 cases, and they keep saying it shows up and it's not there anymore." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Oh yeah.
Zoe's like, no, they're fucking with us.
4 cases? I'm like, what? And like this is the first time I heard of it, and I was like, wait, how? Why are we sending them more cases? And she was like, well, they keep saying they don't get it. I was like, oh man. So we were like checking it. And I wish there's just like a database. Maybe this exists. Hopefully somebody listening out there has this. It just basically like tracks all people that have defrauded any e-commerce brand and they just kind of like blacklist them because we have to do an identity check now just because it's like the industry that we're in. So you have to, if it goes through like name and address, and so it scans like a bunch of databases that it already has, and then all of a sudden, if it thinks you're not of age or if it thinks you're not good enough to buy this, it'll basically be like, hey, you need to send a picture of you with your credit card or with your ID, and then from that ID, then you can get approval on it. And so like we go through a couple more steps, but fraud is a very real thing, and I wish there was a database that we can just like blacklist and not allow any purchases to happen on any of our sites.
I wonder, so there's a tool, I wonder if you guys use it, like literally just called like No Fraud. It's super easy.
We use it.
Yeah. So I wonder like if we could talk to like No Fraud and be like, so can we just like share lists? Like what's going on with the people on the other whatever?
Business idea for somebody here. And I think that you could do this with pretty light technical experience and an assist from AI. Basically, you would need a little bit of network help if like maybe just approach Nick and Bart and Zoe, and then we can connect you with some others. But get a handful of e-commerce brands, 5 or 10 or something like that, and just be like, all right, like give me your list of people who've like sort of like fraud, like been like customer fraud. So customers performing fraud on the brands, right?
Yeah.
Put that into a database and then do some light coding to integrate with Shopify, launch a Shopify app, and just say, hey, we're not saying where these came from. We're just going to like, this is just an app that like puts an asterisk or highlights or flags orders that come through. We're not going to stop any orders from coming through. But we're just going to flag orders that come through of people who are in this database. And then you can click on them and look at like how severe it's been. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
how
Yeah,
many
because you
times.
could place them on hold before fulfilling.
doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't Shopify already do a little bit of that? Like we'll get orders,
This
and
is an idea that could be swallowed up by Shopify pretty easily. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, because we'll get orders in that say like potential fraud, and then it literally says in the message like this person has been not flagged, but has has fraudulent orders in the past. So that's already kind of there, but the chargeback stuff is definitely annoying, and like I know everybody in e-commerce deals with it, but it's not like a hot topic that everybody tweets about or anything.
Yeah, chargeback stuff's so I'm in a really like Nick, I have a small lifestyle brand. I don't really talk about the niche that much because it's also a sensitive niche. And we get some chargebacks, not so much, but we get a lot of, because we have a subscription product. I'm wondering if you get this as well, Nick. A lot of like the credit cards flag it. So on our rebills, the credit cards flag the rebills a ton. Like
Like
I feel like
insufficient funds or
no,
credit card expired?
no, the credit cards flag it as potential fraud on the rebills, and I think it's because we're in a sensitive category.
Oh,
Like like it's been so like you said, Zoe. It's an unsexy topic that nobody tweets about. I'm like, yeah, like a whole broader idea here is like it's unsexy, but for our brand, it ended up being like a huge turning point because our rebills, like, you know, on first rebill, we were only getting maybe like 40 or 50% of people rebilling. And some of them would even reach out and be like, yeah, I don't know what happened. Like it would, like they couldn't even do it without contacting, and nobody's going to contact their credit card company unless they just like really want it. Right. And when we, like, I don't even know how we did this because this was one of the other people in the brand that did this, but like we've worked with like various companies and tools to help us like reduce that a ton. And now it's like 70%, 60 or 70% of people the first rebill works for. So it's like, that's a huge unlock if you're thinking about acquisition costs or even just revenue, you know, but it's like, yeah, nobody tweets about it because it's like really boring and technical. And you got to like, I don't know, there's like something with rotating mids out and different things like that. Like, I think you have to open up different, I don't know. Yeah, Shaq, I don't know. Do you know more about this, or is this someone else at Brez that handles this?
No, this is us because subscription. We use ChargeFlow, and then we have no fraud ChargeFlow. We have a unique payment structure with Maverick. We have a very very good structure of how this happens because then it goes into like we have a pretty good dunning sequence when if the cars aren't getting hit, like how many times we actually hit them within a period of time and
Yep.
how we rebuild them. So this is
It's a whole
very,
thing.
very intricate. It's a
Yeah.
full system for sure because
Same
a lot of
for
times
us. Yeah.
yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good thing for AI to kind of come into play and you can start understanding like what I would, because I know one of the questions is like, how do we think AI is going to impact what we do on a day-to-day basis or even some of the brands in this? I think you're going to be able to go a little bit further with a little bit less people supporting you because I know now, even right now we're looking to hire out a bunch of people, a bunch of middle management because we need to go in this direction. And I'm like, damn, before we do that, maybe we should see what tools are out there. And a lot of these, like, I will build these AI agents for you, is starting to pick up a lot of my like YouTube feed and starting to pick up a lot of my IG feed. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious if you guys have played around or thought through anything that's just like a good day-to-day execution that you would actually use, other than I'm typing in Claude for answers or typing GPT for answers.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has been the episode where we're shouting out non-sponsor apps here. So
Or maybe
continuing with
sponsor.
what's that?
Maybe they will sponsor.
Well, it's a little behind the scenes here. Some of these are completely willing to sponsor, and Nick was like, "Yeah, they're totally down to sponsor." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I messed up. I already sold all the sponsorship." It's a good problem to have and a bad problem to have. But yeah, I guess shouting out one more, that the place that I work at, Triple Whale, we just soft launched agents, right? And there's a lot of interest. Like we just kind of tweeted about it and posted it on LinkedIn, and we thought scheduled demos are really hard to get in software. Like people don't schedule touchless. Like people don't touchless schedule that. All right, so Bart, Nick, you guys are both founders. How often do you guys touchless without somebody reaching out to you and bugging you regularly? Like touchless, you schedule a demo with a software company. Pretty rare, right?
Unless I need it. Unless it's I had a
I
call with.
don't.
Yeah.
I had we have a call. I had a call with PDQ because I need to optimize my tracking page. And they're like, okay, let's do that. I was like, that's a specific thing at a specific time. I don't know about you, Bart.
It's
I
if I'm really looking for this.
Yeah, I was onboarded onto an extension yesterday, and I asked them to send me as many looms as possible, so I don't have to get on a call.
Right.
But the difference with the loom. So I like this approach too. But you can't negotiate live and get them to reply to you.
Yeah.
Which Nick
Yeah,
does.
and that was after a first intro call, and I was like, okay, I'm in. Price is good. All right, I can set up the rest of the stuff. Just loom me.
Yeah. Which and
I get that.
Negotiating software is big for Nick. He negotiates with all of his softwares, and he's got the negotiating power to do it. Not every brand does.
I actually don't like the clients that I work with. I don't like to let them let the software, if I suggest something, I don't want the software people to talk to them because I'm like, you're gonna ruin it by being too salesy. Leave me alone. I'm I'll figure out what price, and if they don't like it, I'm gonna tell you and say they're not gonna. I hate the salesy part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are just all pooping on me right now. That's fine. My job, the funny thing is I'm on calls all the time on Triple Whale where people will be like, oh, that's interesting. How do we add that? Or how much is that? And I'm like, don't know. Not a Triple Whale salesperson. I should be better. I should be ready to sell you, but I'm not. Anyway, agents though, kind of what I was saying, back to AI. We just tweet about it, post on LinkedIn, no paid, no real push behind this. And there's been, I think we're closing in on probably 50 demos or something like that, of people who just scheduled this touchless, and some of them are big brands, you would know them. So, I think there's a lot of interest in agents, like you're saying, Nick, and this is coming up on your YouTube a lot more. And, I don't know who started. I don't know what the viral thing was that first started people that gave people the language of agents. But that's that's the buzz right now. If you say agents, you probably instantly get $1 billion in funding from SoftBank right now. That's probably just put one if you want to start a SaaS company and you want to get funding, just make a deck. And there's one slide and there's just one word and it just says agents. And then you go to SoftBank and you're like, there you go. And they're like, okay, here's some money. I think that's what's going on right now.
I literally have an email in my inbox going from hey dude, saw your LinkedIn post. We build end-to-end agents. How can I help you? Literally right now.
There you go.
What does that even mean?
I was like, I think this is the hard part is a lot of the agents are a lot of the AI. I left an agency event and it was 200 agencies, everybody at lower level of revenue, the 30 to 50,000 range. And the smaller teams are super excited about it because they don't want to have to hire people to cover these nuances or admin work or research work or things that take actual hours to assemble and onboard and play with. But then the final thing is the humans still have to be involved. The humans still have to do majority of the back and forth because on the service side, can't necessarily go into another brand that's a human. I'm not going to tell them that they're using a full AI. They're going to be, why am I paying what you're requesting me to pay when you the human aren't doing the thing? And I think there's just this weird. There's probably a lot of things that could power internally, but it should never touch the end result, which is weird because a lot of people believe AI customer support reps or AI service should be the thing that people are touching first. Whereas like, how much branded could that be? And if you fuck up the relationship with the customer and it's AI doing the back and forth, isn't that like way more detrimental than anything?
Hmm.
Yeah, Zoe. I was gonna kick to you
Well,
because
I think, yeah, you have to like use it wisely. So like, I don't like Breeze. I wouldn't suggest, like, there's so much humanization you can do with it. But let's say like I had a client last month who had an influx of over 10,000 tickets in overnight, and they couldn't staff like quickly. Like, there's no way you can staff quickly like that quick enough or that quick to handle everything.
Mhm.
And so what I did, I spent like a couple hours, and they weren't using an AI agent yet. So I was like, the only way to solve this immediately is to use AI, and like, no, and a bot answer that actually like works is better than no answer waiting for a human.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
so I spent a couple hours. I built out their AI bot for like the biggest, like easiest, like things that you don't need to talk to a human on. And we were able to I made the bot answer enough tickets that it was equivalent to 6 support agents overnight. So like they were handling all of the new ones that like I allowed it to. And then once we caught up in a 24-hour response time, I turned it off
Yeah.
because I'm like, we don't want that. But like, it's a good tool to
Yeah.
just turn on. And now if we ever get behind again, I just turn it on right away. It's a little bit more expensive compared to like offshore, really cheap offshore, but it works. You just have to use it wisely, you know?
I think a media buying or marketing version of this, Nick, could be like, there are certain ad accounts that there's just a lot of activity in, right? Like you got to babysit it a little bit, especially during big moments. I think like, a bot could act as a babysitter while you sleep, right? Or that while you're like, I need to just go like walk outside and touch grass for an hour. But you're like during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're afraid to even do that. You know what I'm saying? Certain people are, so, or like at certain brands, or if you have certain levels of ad accounts, or if you handle a lot, you're at an agency where you handle a lot of them. So I think, a bot that acts as a babysitter, there are rules. I mean, you can set rules, but like every media buyer has had rules backfire on them, right? Because they just didn't get
Yeah.
the logic right or something like that. And so, yeah, I think that like there's probably something there too, where it's like it can act as another layer. I want to ask you, I don't know, Bart, thoughts on this? I feel like I didn't let you kind of.
No, it's all good. This is not my topic, honestly.
Yeah, AI is not your topic. You're like,
I
you want to
sell
talk about
hats to
putting
dads.
hats
We
on
don't
dads?
use too many AI agents around here. I mean, we use chargeback stuff and which helps, but we haven't dabbled in that too much. We have a way too simple of a biz to need any of that stuff right now.
You're getting to the stage, Breeze is here too, where Breeze is a little bit more complicated of a business, but you're adding
Yeah.
apparel. Adding apparel, we should talk about that on another episode, but adding apparel adds a large layer of complication to your business because you're adding variation. Sizes, yep. Sizes and colors. But you already had colors. So I don't know. Like you're getting to that stage though of size where you're like, I don't know, we need more people. I think a lot of, like you said, Nick, if you're already small, you're trying to ask yourself, where can we use AI instead of hiring more people where we would have normally just hired more people, right?
I want to tell you some things that we were learning about the Breeze website that was costing us a bunch of money that we actually didn't know until we installed heat map. On our product page, we have bullet points that looked like buttons. We had elements that looked like buttons that you actually can't click. And we were finding out that we were literally losing money because the navigation was so unclear that to the thousands of dollars because of the amount of traffic we're spending, we weren't able to find success. And so heatmap.com was able to kind of highlight and tell us exactly where these users were clicking. And we made that immediate change. Then we saw on heatmap that like we had product tiles where people were navigating to kind of add to cart or learn more about the products. It's too far down on the page, but majority of the revenue is starting and driven from those specific tiles. And by us just moving those up the page so it's less of a scroll on mobile, we're able to drive almost 2 times the revenue from the same exact amount of traffic. That, again, was only coming from heatmap. I think that's super powerful because it's able to track specific dollars per element on your website, and no other thing in the world can do this. Not that I know. And so this is why it's easy enough for me to use or our CRO to use. There's no negotiation. There's no back and forth. It's either making us money or it's losing us money. And it's the reason why I'm super thankful for the Heat Map team to be a part of this crew. And if you want to try it for 14 days, free of charge, worst case, doesn't work for you. Best case, you make a bunch of money, you save a bunch of money. It's a win all around. Hope you guys try it out.
Yeah. We went like on our customer service side, Grant, one of the co-founders, handled it by himself all alone for the longest time. We were having like 1,000 order days, and he was responding until we hired an outside agency to handle customer service for us. And then even training those people can be a little tough on like, because we have a fun language. Like we're still like a couple of dads just trying to like run this business. So we respond very casually. Somebody says their package didn't show up, we'll crack a couple jokes with them and then solve the problem. Like training a customer service team to carry over that kind of language, to have fun with our customers and show appreciation and like show emotion and just like thank them for supporting our business. That was even a little tough. So like, I'm not doubting that an AI could learn that kind of vibe per se, but I'd be open to it, like if it did exist.
I have been very surprised with the AI, because same thing. I'm like, how are they gonna what if the customer says like, my mom died and I don't need this anymore? Like, what's the AI gonna say? Like,
right.
But you can train it to be friendly, sophisticated, whatever you want. But sometimes the AI bot does better than the humans, because the humans will think they have to, either it's one side or the other. Brand voice is so hard because you have to teach them to be like copywriters, because you're like, and like read the message, because the customer support agents are like under so much pressure, like get through all these tickets, like make sure everyone gets a response, but also like make sure you read their message, and if they tell you something, acknowledge it. And people it's a really hard thing for people to do. And sometimes the AI does better than the humans. It's crazy.
That makes sense. Yeah, if you train it on enough data, and especially as it gets better and better.
Well, it reads your previous responses, so it knows your brand voice.
Yeah.
Where like you'd have to tell a human, go read all of Bart's responses to understand, or like, this is what we say, this is what we don't say.
Yeah. I'm curious what you guys think industry wide. Like when I say, okay, these smaller brands that are growing, like a Brez, I mean, I said earlier, Brez might be like a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola of your category, and your category might potentially be as big as soft drinks, right? When those companies are growing and are at the size that you're at, they were hiring people, right? And most brands that are getting to your size, they're hiring people, and it's like, we can't find enough good people. Whereas you're saying we're going to hire people, but like, can we think twice? Can we measure twice, cut once on our hires, right? And just kind of make sure that more stuff can't be covered by AI. Do you think that? I think a lot of people are like, oh, AI is going to take jobs. I'm like, I don't know if it will actively take jobs, but it will probably do that. I mean, I don't know what the large level effects of people who work in the e-commerce industry are. Like, do you basically just have to be an owner, or you're going to be not, or you won't have a job eventually, or there will just be very few people with the jobs, and but then what does everybody else do? I guess that's what nobody has a satisfying answer for. Do you guys have ideas? What are your ideas here?
You have to know how
Nick just shrugged. He's just like, I don't know, dude. I don't want to. I don't know.
If you don't know how to use AI, then you're gonna be left in the dust. For
sure. I mean, I think that's a given. But at a point, what if you extrapolate this out and the rate of growth it has, what can humans do that it can't?
Especially if they can.
I'm just like, do better. Like your brain, like just get better at your job, and you don't have anything to worry about. But that's like the tism in me.
I think that there's going to be a 10% slice of humans who are very like good. I don't know. They're the most talented, you might say. Mm-hmm. If we think about this in creators or influencers, the bottom 90% of influencers who people don't actually connect with, they might get overtaken by AI. But the people like Veronica is cool, one of your guys' favorite influencers, like you're in on, like, she's talented. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's some like slice of people who like the 10% that AI can't cover is the intangible 10% that's just going to be hard for AI to close the gap. That's
Yeah.
how it looks right now. Maybe not. But if that's the case, then that means like the bottom 90% of people don't, like, that's almost the worst case, because then it doesn't replace everybody. Some people can still create wealth for themselves and create an income for themselves, but a bunch of people can't.
I think the one thing I've seen a lot of just feedback on, and we haven't used any AI for content outside of maybe like background changes on products, but like I've seen a lot of people chiming in on like a lot of this ad AI content is just not cutting it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these like apps coming out that'll make product videos or fake UGC, all that kind of stuff. Like just I've recently just seen a lot of like chatter about like these videos are not believable, or they're just so like bland that it's hard to cut through. But that's not to say like that new version of that AI is just going to learn to be better over and over again.
I mean, I've had some that have definitely gotten a port, like have been good enough to get, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50% of the spend in the ad account, So for sure, I think there's a lot of them that aren't good, but that's the whole thing, is just shots on goal, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Shaq, I know you've been playing with these. You guys using AI ads in Brez or in any other brands that you have insight into?
So I posted a pretty gnarly thread yesterday because I'm like an early advisor to the icon.me guys, where it's like AI creators. And I I have a unique opinion of, like, I don't think it matters if it's a real human selling me a product or if it's an AI human selling me a product. I don't actually know that person anyways. Like, I don't know who they are, so them being real or fake, if it's believable and it's like, oh, it's actually that kind of makes sense, or I have like some sort of relationship or some sort of affinity towards that person, real or fake, and I buy from it. Okay, then it worked, and I don't think that's an issue. I think that's a slippery slope because they can then start just making up anything they want that appears to be kind of real. And I I still think you have to have an understanding of what you want the tool to do, the correct communication and prompting that has to go into it, the understanding of what the outcome or the goal needs to be. There's still like a lot of understanding of the actual end goal and result, which shows the seniority or shows how good you are at getting the thing done. But I don't think the people actually have to do the thing. And
Right.
so I do believe that these tools are going to help a lot of people out. A lot of brands get a lot further than they thought they could do without having to hire a bunch of full-time people. But it's still going to be like the pros will be much further along than the amateurs.
I think it's going to be hard to be like just a 9 to 5, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like just somebody who's like, oh yeah, I do, like, I don't know, I work at a marketing agency, or I'm a growth
Yeah.
marketer at a brand, and I, like, I don't know, I don't really like educate myself outside. Like, I'm not listening to podcasts, I'm not reading like any newsletters. I'm just like kind of going to work, doing what we've been trained to do, and like, maybe I'm pretty good at it. That's the kind of person that I think is in the, like, ooh, it's gonna be real hard for you to, like, you're basically running this race that right now you might be a little bit ahead of AI, but like that's going to be the person that's, but also maybe maybe it's just all of us, maybe we're like way underestimating the capabilities, in which case that there just have to be some massive overhaul, because if nobody has any money, then nobody can buy anything, then we don't, so like there would have to be some sort of like overhaul, right? I want to throw one more AI thing at you guys, and then I want to shift, and this is more consumer side. This is a thought I was thinking about the other day, and I think this would impact a lot of brands quite a lot. If so you guys have probably seen some of the like robotics advances that have happened, where like a lot of people are like, okay, a house robot, not that far away, like, so a robot that like does your dishes, does your laundry, that's like, that could be realistic in the next few years, and like maybe it could be the price of like a car. It's $500 a month, and you have like a 7-year lease on it or something like that, right? In which case I think a lot of people would opt in, right? And I'm like, take that one step further. And it just made me think of an assistant, and I'm like, oh, what if, like, especially once you have that integrated, where you have this thing that can kind of just like see how you're living, you know what I mean? What if like you also basically opened it up to make a lot of purchase decisions for you? So for example, right now we either go to the grocery store or we buy our groceries online and get them delivered. What if it just like did that for you and it based it on, your taste preferences, your goals in terms of like your nutritional needs, your goals in terms of like how healthy you want to eat, and your budget, and it balanced all those things, and then it observed data. Okay, when I buy this, he doesn't really eat it. When I buy this stuff, he does eat it. When I do that, like he's going to DoorDash twice a week, no matter what. So I should leave room in the budget for that. Like if it just learns you over time, right?
And then it takes inventory of your house.
Well, yeah. Or it's like, hey, like I think he needs actually to clear out these, 4 things, 5 things, 10 things out of his closet. So puts it, hey, you good with getting rid of all this? I can get you some other stuff. Right. And then
I just donated all your favorite shirts.
yeah. I mean, it probably, gets permission over time. You might just be like, don't ask me, like, right. But like, then it goes and it says, okay, needs some more long sleeves, just got rid of a bunch of long sleeves. And it does the shopping for you. And then we get to a world where like, how's AI going to do your shopping? If it does it that same way that it did with food, then it's going to take into account your preferences, your budget, like how much you want to spend on different things, what your money goals are. It's going to take into account, who you identify with. It would think about marketing and the message and influencers and stuff like that, but it's also going to take into account like value for price a lot more. And I think where this would be impactful, and the reason I'm using clothing is because I think a lot of e-commerce brands right now live on this ability to do really great advertising and basically get people to buy into, like, basically get people to buy a product where if they did a little bit of research, they could get a, alternative that's 90 to 95 to maybe even 100% as good for 50% of the price. But this other company, the company that makes them category aware, is really good at marketing. And I wonder if something like that would hurt a company like that and help a company that's like really great at product, but not so great at marketing. Theoretically, yes. But yeah, I know. Thoughts on this? Do you think this is even possible? Do you think people would give it that much control? Like, it has your bank account info, it has your credit card info. Do you think people would be too wary? I would give it all the control. I'd be like, yeah, take all the thought off of my plate.
That sounds like a robot Jackie.
Yeah, robot Jackie is what I need. Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie's gonna not like this one.
I would never
directly getting rid of her.
You will like it. She's like, I'm a lawyer. I'd like to just actually be a lawyer instead of taking care of Zoe all the time.
Literally.
So robot Jackie would be great. I don't know. Thoughts on this, Shaq? Anything? Would you? Okay, let's start here. Would you do this? Like, would you give it that level of control in your life?
I have that already. I've already given that level of control in my life to Shauna.
I know.
And it took us a year plus to get there, just because like there's just so much nuance and timing. And I mean, I'm trying it out right now with travel. Like I have a full AI and like a little bit of human input to plan all my travel and book it correctly and use points and use credit card access. So I'm trying to do it with some sort of tech, finances, and preference. So we'll see. I just don't think I would want it to be like, here's my social security, don't share this anywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think to really give it the access it needs, you'd have to give it your unlock info, mother's maiden name, social security, that kind of stuff. I think
like real shit.
Well, look, I think we're a generation away from people being like, oh, that stuff's not a secret anyway. You know what I mean? Like Gen Z gets our age and they're like, I think people just already know my social security number. Like if you want
I actually have no idea where mine is. Mine's like,
you don't have yours memorized?
No, I have it. I know it's in my head, but I've moved so many times and I have no idea where that thing went. And I'm like, does it really matter?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know, dude.
I don't know if having your card matters.
Yeah, mine's stored away. I don't know. Maybe I'm just the old guy talking here, but I actually enjoy some choice, like being able to make the decisions around whether it's apparel or like groceries and stuff. I especially when you're a dad and you're like, wow, I get to go to the grocery store for 20 minutes by myself. What? This is crazy. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I
needed an outing for this day anyway. Everybody get in the van.
Yeah. And I enjoy like having some sort of taste in what you pick out for apparel. But at the same time, if you were like extremely busy, like Shaq running 600 plus companies, and you don't have time to make those decisions, then
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. But if you, I don't know, you enjoy
Well,
some of those activities
I
too.
think there's probably some stuff though that you're like, I don't know whether it's paying bills or whether there's some stuff where you're just like, oh yeah, like this got to get done.
Yeah,
Um,
paying bills, go ahead.
yeah, exactly. You know, or like for
Or
some
don't.
people, apparel, or like I think it would take that into account though. It's like, oh, Bart likes choice. I'm just gonna like I'm gonna narrow down that like 90% of the way there stuff, and I'm gonna be like, hey, here's a couple that I found that you might like, a couple brands, go browse them, see what you like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like brands would then want to run ads within the robot to recommend their product to
and
that customer.
and this is where I do wonder if you could do that, because that would be a great way to monetize for for whoever cracks this, right? But
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, but like what I want from you is I don't want like I want you to find me the best product for my preferences. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this could affect some brand, like if this is where we're headed, and I think that probably people who are maybe over the age of 25 might struggle to be like, you got to give it a lot of information, but give that, like, take the people who are 12 to 15 now, and when they're 30, they might be like, I don't know, what is personal information anyway? Like anybody can get that. And they might not have any problem with it,
Yeah.
could hurt some brands. All right. I think Shaq, you said you brought up AI. All right, Bart, to you.
Yeah. I like this topic we were discussing earlier about working with brands and then using that work to promote yourself.
Okay. For example.
Yeah. Well, recently across Twitter, there was
Oh yeah.
big topic around an agency owner gloating that they helped get a brand to multiple millions. And it was all they're doing. And then they were asked to not talk about that. And they said, no, we're going to keep doing it. And I think this is this is a pretty big one, doing it this way. But you
Yeah.
also see agencies do it like pretty often where they'll work with a brand one time and then put their logo on the website and leave it up there for 5 years to be like, oh yeah, we worked with Dr. Squatch or whoever, like, some big brand names. So yeah, what is that fine line between using other brands to kind of boost your authority as an agency? And there you have it.
Hey, Shaq, should we talk about alignment of incentives between brands and agencies? That'd be an interesting topic for you and I to talk about.
I think it could be. I think maybe not right now, but
Shaq and I have probably put in 100 hours on this topic of agencies and brands.
So the funny thing is about this is like Tony and I commented on this one. This got wild reach because
For
everybody.
clarity, Tony is Tony Yu from Vessi. Vessi is the brand that got. Yeah, go ahead.
Tony Yu, yep, blah blah blah. We did a lot of work for Tony when they first launched. Tony fired us after we were with him for a great period of time, and they've gone on to have many partners in the space, and we get this right now because we have one former client that's like, hey, like don't run our ads. And don't post about it because sometimes the brands specifically don't want people to know that an agency is doing the growth for them, and they want it to feel like they are doing all the things for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that's a thing. I don't know why people care much of that. If you're growing, you're growing. I don't know if that's the case that he is dealing with, but the way that this goes about is like, this is the wrong way to deal with this. If you're the agency, first off, this is not even a great case study because how many people are going to do waterproof shoes? Two,
Yeah.
it's so specific and the claims are so outrageous that it actually is detrimental for anybody that's following along because nothing can be replicated. And then three, you got blasted so aggressively on such a public channel and then quadrupled down on it. Oh, I don't know. You can't win. You can't come back from this. You have to delete the profile.
Okay, I know you're running a lot of product catalog ads and you're using Marpipe. What are some of the creative tests in your catalog ads that you've noticed that have worked well for Dad Gang?
Honestly, for us, the thing that's performing really well right now is like a three grid breakout of the hat. So a lot of our original catalog ads would just have like the front of the hat showing and not the second image. So being able to showcase like the front, the side, the back of the hat in one ad. The other one, as simple as it sounds, is just like actually putting the price front and center, like a little red circle that actually shows the price, because our hats are great quality, but they're only $35 compared to a lot of like the similar quality of a hat out there is like $45 to $60. So I think being able to showcase an affordable price in one ad is helping too.
So, and like Marpipe specifically, they just bust out tons of variations of your catalogs and keep testing it.
Yeah, you just integrate directly into Slack with their team, let them know what you're kind of looking for. They bust out a bunch of variations. It connects directly into your Ads Manager account, and you don't even have to do that much within Ads Manager. It's a seamless integration into everything you're already doing.
If you're any kind of brand that wants to put your catalog ads on steroids and get more returns, better returns out of your catalog ads, check out marpipe.com. All right, back to the pod. You're talking about the brand that's running as an ad. So just for the audio listeners, Tony posted a screenshot of an ad from an agency owner that basically says our strategy launched Vessi from startup to 100 million in annual revenue. And then he posted a screenshot of a message exchange where Tony, the owner of Vessi, said, he's the founder of Vessi, is that right?
Yeah, one of the partners. Yeah,
one of the partners of Vessi. Okay, so Tony said, "Hey, long time, I've been seeing you running this ad. Can you these claims are too wild. Can you turn it off?" And then, the response was, "Can you tell me what claims are off?" And then he just said, "Can you take these down? We don't want these out here." And then the person responded to him and said, "That's not really fair. Part of our terms is the ability to share our success. I've verified all the info in the case study, and I'm happy to work with you if there's something you don't like." And then Tony, so he posted that screenshot of that message exchange, and then he posted, prior working with Monk Media, Vessi had never marketed their shoes by he posted some screenshots from the case study and just said these are just outright not true. So I think what you're saying, Shaq, is that like, if you do something like this and then get called out on a public platform and then it blows up like this, like that's just like that's a nail in the coffin for your agency. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't double down on, like, you have to. I mean, all Tony was asking for was like, dude, take this down, and all Noah should have replied to it was like,
Oh, okay.
can we please keep it? What can we keep up? What would it be for you to allow us to keep up? Because we did do this work. And I think he did do some work. He probably did great work for them, but you can't make an outlandish claim like you were the reasons why it got to 100 million. It's just unrealistic.
For sure.
I couldn't imagine ever posting something without explicit permission. Like, I just feel like that's so rude.
Yeah, and that's like at today, it's at like 500,000 views on that kind of call out. So
like, Nick, if I was to post
Twitter loves a good scam exposure.
Yeah. If I was to post about like us and Brez working together, like I would like something like that. I would be like, "Hey, Nick, is this cool to post?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you think about this?" Like, I just would never just post something like that.
So I'm gonna say a couple things might be unpopular with the agency folks here. First of all, if you're a marketing agency that works with a brand like Vessi, you will be able to draw a case study out of it with very impressive numbers, even if you don't do good work. Because Vessi is a large enough brand and a fast enough growing brand that you can hide in the data, right? So you can cherry pick data that will make you look good if you want to, if that's the game you're playing, which sounds like is what was done here. According to Tony, we're getting Tony's half of the story. All right. So according to Tony, that's what it sounds like what happened here. So I think that, from the agency's perspective, this is what gets clients. Like, people want to see case studies. And I posted something the other day that said, like, we have this really strange thing we do as humans where we want to take the example when we're on chapter 5, we want to take the example from the person on chapter 50. So we have a footwear brand doing 5 million a year in revenue. And we're like, oh, these guys worked with Vessi that does just multitudes more revenue than us. Or these guys worked with Allbirds or something like that. And it's like, irrelevant. That is irrelevant to your situation, right? Like the people who you should be asking about are the people who are like 7 million, like one chapter ahead of you, but they're just not impressive enough. Like you don't care enough about them, right? So that is one issue, is that on the agency side, like this is what gets the clients, right? And but then on the brand, on the brand side, it's like I think that what needs to happen here is like the incentives for agencies to do this stuff has to go away. Otherwise, this stuff will continue to happen. And the only way incentives go away is if brands get a little bit smarter about being like, like here's the question you should ask your agency. I'll say it, and you guys can watch Nick Shackelford, who owns an agency. You can watch his face and see if his asshole puckers up from this. You should ask your agency, in the last 2 years, how many brands have you had that do less than $3 million a year in revenue? And how long did you retain those brands on average, median? You can't hide from that question as an agency. That's like going to show how good you are at the actual thing. I worked with Vessi. That doesn't show how good you are at the actual thing. You can hide in the data there. And so I think that's probably one of the things, is like, stop being impressed by case studies with a big brand name on them, because it's just really easy to make that look good. Like that's number one. Shaq, thoughts?
I think it's also, I mean, yeah, I think it's an incredible question. Two, you have to talk to people that are currently working with them, because
Yeah.
I
What'd you
think,
find?
because I've been in this space so long, that I think it's you. And I tell, when we talk to a partner that has an agency team, right? They're like, hey, like, I don't know, maybe we need to switch it up. Like, I don't know, maybe I just need a fresh perspective in here. I go, do you trust them? Like, yeah, like I think they're making good decisions. I'm like, is it worth trying to find out if somebody else is incrementally better than them, or should you get an audit and maybe let the current existing team operate it? That is, like, if you find a team that knows growth to a degree, that you trust them enough, you're paying them a fair amount, I wouldn't switch for what would hope to be better if the grass is greener on the other side. Like, I just don't think that's a smart decision, especially again, if you're a marketer, and Bart, you don't fall in this category. You're a marketer that is on the brand side. We're marketers that are on the brand side, so we can do our own stuff and we can kind of call bullshit if we don't. But if you have a brand founder that's pure product and has no real context of how any of these platforms work, you're screwed. You're so
Yeah.
screwed.
Yeah.
So the question is a little bit different, because can I talk to someone that you've worked with currently? They don't have to be my person. They don't have to be like the team that I'm going to get on, because if you show a case study, the only logical steps of questions is like, cool, does the person that did this still work for you? Yeah. Can I work with them? No. Why can't I? So I can't expect to have this outcome. Okay. Or if they don't work for you anymore, why did that employee leave? That's even worse than like, why did the brand leave? Because brands, I mean, the LTV on any of these guys is like 12 months max if you're absolutely killing. And by that point, they're gonna be like, fuck that, I don't want to pay this money anymore. So
Right.
it's the agency space, and that's why there's such a big clamor to get as many case studies as humanly possible across so many different industries and niches, because that actually used to be the thing that meant the most. And now it's, who am I working with? How fast can you reply? What is the workflow? What are the actual like what's the earliest wins you can deliver for me, so that way I can recoup some of this cash back? And I think that's where the places that, if you're an agency, that's where you're going to win. Is like, here's the quickest wins we can deliver for you, and here's how much that's going to cost, and then here's what happens in the following and trailing months.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you have a different type of agency, Zoe, but you probably deal with a lot of like, brand team doesn't have any core competency in my area. Do you think that's like like, it's like, no, at a certain size, you don't have to be the one you can still hire an agency for something, but you've got to know enough to be dangerous. Like, do you think that's like, you need somebody internally who knows enough to, like you said, like call balls and like Shaq said, call balls and strikes on, like, no,
I
this team is not moving fast enough, they're not working hard enough, or they're doing stuff that I just know is not very like good.
I see it happen all the time with CX. I'm sure it happens everywhere, but like it's hard to, and I haven't seen anyone like do what we do, and not just saying that, like that's why I started the agency, because I was getting like people asking me questions and then ask me to work for them, and I'm like, I don't have time, but I don't know where to like send you to, because you don't just need like you don't just need people in the tickets. You need people fixing the issues and knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so then I taught people to do what I do. And then that's how the agency formed. And so like, we see that all the time where founders come to us and they're like, we hired this CX agency that called themselves a CX agency, but all they did was put offshore people in our tickets and didn't train them and just like handed us people. Like, so I actually have never done any like intentional marketing for the agency. Everything has been through referrals and like word of mouth or just see my content. So like, I don't really understand this side because I haven't gotten to that point yet. I can't keep up with the growth. Like I just want to do good work. And then the work, like people talk about it. So I don't really get it.
Yeah. You're in a phase where there's more demand than supply of people who can execute.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure we do good work consistently. And that's what I'm focused on.
Most markets will get flooded, so that might not always be the case. But at least, or maybe it's just a high lift enough service that it's just like, no smart business owner is even going to launch an agency around this. I'm only doing it because it's my area of expertise. All right, Bart,
I want to worry about it. I'm like, there's plenty of brands to go around. I just want to do good work. And like, I also don't care about making $1 million. So I'm like, how much money do we need? Like, I just want to be able to help cool brands, pay my people, like pay myself. And like, I don't know, I just keep my head down.
Yeah. No, there's enough for everybody to eat, right?
Yeah.
This is Shackism. All right, Bart, I want to kick to you on this. So you were agency side, you started a brand, grown pretty quick. I'm curious, is like performance marketing ever an aspect of your brand that you would ever outsource, or is that just like, no, that will always be internal? Because I think there's this whole other side of it of like, there are people with a mindset that like, this is just a core function of your business. You should be doing it.
Yeah. No, I would definitely outsource it if it gets to that point. I think with growth and busyness and introducing apparel and doing some licenses and stuff, like we're all going to get to a point where it's just too much. And being on the agency side of things too, I did see owners that would come in and like they were the buyer, like the media buyer, for instance, at the service they wanted. And then they would have such a tough time letting somebody else do it. Whereas like if you do find a good partner that kind of gets the rhythm of what you're doing or can improve whatever you weren't doing right, you just got to be able to have that personality trait of like, okay, I am going to trust in this person to do it right, instead of just jumping on all over them if they make any tweak or optimization or change things. So no, I'm not against it. Right now, it's just like, it's just very doable. But I do realize like the truth of it is that things will get busier, and it would be nice to put in somebody that can also do it eventually.
Yeah, I think my TLDR on this is I think that having somebody you can trust to take an honest look at any outsourced team's work is huge, whether that person is an internal team member, whether it's yourself, or whether it's just like, somebody else, that you can trust to basically like you said, Shaq, you're like, do you trust them? Like, that's the biggest reason I see people dancing around agencies is because they're like, they'll come to me and they'll ask, hey, can you like tell me, are they doing like, you think they're doing the right thing and stuff like that? And I'm like, oh, you either don't trust that they're being honest with you. So best case scenario, you just don't trust that they know what they're doing very much, that's kind of like best case. Worst case scenario, you think that they know what they're doing and they're being purposely dishonest with you. And so I think like having that sort of like person that you trust that has aptitude in the thing is pretty big when you're hiring outsourced, especially for core aspects of the business. All right, I want to wrap with like a really quick round the horn on one thing since it's the first episode. I just want to ask you guys, as we launch this podcast, what is it that you guys are looking to get out of it, and what is it that each of us are looking to get out of it, and what do we sort of want it to be for the listeners and the audience? This is a impromptu. So who's quick off the jump here and already has an idea?
I can go.
Go.
I selfishly want it as like take a break from having my head down and just like talk, like a therapy session. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm excited to like share it around. just it forces me to like share my brain, and I like want to do more of that. And then it's like nice to just like take a break from the computer for a second.
Yeah. Who else? Bart, you got something?
Yeah, no, I like it kind of because of the concept that you put together of like these are the people you'd want to start a company with, and it's cool to just like put our heads together and discuss topics that are current and topics that people might struggle with, and things that we might learn from each other. And then even for like me listening to other podcasts, like I want to be able to actually give true like experience value instead of just talking like high level stuff that you'd hear at any panel. I just want to like, how did you solve it? Okay, here's what I did, and kind of give more of that value back to the listener.
There's a lot of content in business like that you could call it like sports content podcasting. It's like, oh, any sports show is going to be just people just guessing. They're just guessing, right? They don't know what's going to happen. They're just guessing. And I think that what you're kind of saying is like, there's a lot of business content like that, like, can we do a little bit less of that? Shaq, what do you got?
I think it's similar to Zoe. Is like there is a lot going on. There's a lot of things to get done, and I think I get such unique perspectives across the agency, the brand, and SaaS that like I have enough to give across all of it. And since all of us kind of hit those three sections, agencies I think that's going to be fun to explore. Like we have the ability to go down very unique and specific rabbit holes with very real context, and we can kind of stay there if we want to. But there's enough different perspectives because we all are kind of like real time, hands on in different areas. I think that's really exciting for me. And two, I'm building deeper relationships with all of you guys because we have good like in person energy vibes, and we've done some stuff together, and so it's nice to keep that going.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that I'm trying to be more intentional with this year is I'm trying to do more coffee chats, just, book a 30-minute with somebody that I like and, don't otherwise keep in touch with. And I'm like, this podcast is sort of an extension of that. Like, how can I get a group of people together that all is really passionate about a topic, but all comes at it from like this different angle? Like Bart is operating this like growing brand. Nick, you're like part of this big growing brand, but you're also like, doing you have an agency, you have a like what we call a productized service with SaaS integration, right? Like you've got a lot of different companies and perspectives. Whereas I think there's other stuff, in this same space where it's like just an agency person interviewing brand founders, and brand founders have an interesting perspective, but a lot of times they're not real hands-on, right? Or just a group of, marketers talking, or just a group of operators talking. I'm like, yeah, let's get like a lot of different people, but people who have a good Venn diagram of experience too, so we can disagree sometimes as well. So it's just like the best panel. Like, like the group of people who I would start a brand with is a great kind of like way to say it. And I think for like what I want it to be for the audience is just it's something that is like broad enough to be entertaining, like interesting, just like even if I didn't work in this industry, I'd listen to this because it's interesting, but also narrow enough to where it's like, I actually think that gives me an idea for the work I'm trying to do right now. You know what I'm saying? Cool.
That's good. It's a nice way to wrap it, man.
All right. That's the episode. We'll put all the handles in the description. If you guys want to follow us on any of the socials, please subscribe to the channel. I mean, Nick is telling me that if this podcast doesn't get big, he's never going to be friends with me again after this year. So please subscribe to the channel. And this is it. This is it. He's like, you dude, I've given you too many chances to do stuff and you never do anything cool. Hit the notification thing when you do subscribe. If you're on audio, please leave a review and also follow us, and looking forward to it. This is one I wanted to do specifically when Shackelford is here. Somebody's cracking open a Breeze. Is that what just happened?
I actually am.
We needs to chill a little bit.
Delicious.
I was like, wait, I'm my own boss. Nobody can like yell at me for getting high.
That was planned product placement for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Zoe will Nick will release your family now. Now that we got that out of the way.
Zoe 15 at checkout for Breeze.
Code Zoe 15. You better make that promo code quick.
Hurry.